I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Adam Constantine.
It's one of the most difficult things, not only most difficult, it's one of the most overlooked things that people forget before they start. When they start and they realize they're not having that success, then they're like, oh, well, I need to find my audience. It's like, well, yes, but that should be the first thing you are doing because there are specific audience patterns that your audience has, and it can even vary per platform.
Adam Constantine is the founder and CEO of Ace Creatives, a full-service social media agency crafting digital content to maximize ROI and brand affinity. With a decade of experience, Adam has curated captivating content for creators, brands, and Fortune 500 companies, including MrBeast, Amazon, and Champion. As a 3-time Telly Awards recipient with a 6'8" frame and an ever-growing shoe collection, Adam is passionate about the art of digital storytelling and strategies for building a powerful social media presence that connects brands with audiences that matter the most. My interview with Adam Constantine is coming right up, but first...
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
When you check out at the pharmacy, you see the journey from idea to medicine, thanks to our intellectual property system, or IP for short. IP safeguards inventions, like a new way to prevent seizures or lower cholesterol. And IP supports competition from other brands, then lower-cost generics, which are 90% of prescriptions filled in the U.S. Innovation, competition, lower costs, thanks to IP. Learn more at phrma.org/IP works wonders.
Adam Constantine, welcome to On Brand.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Nick.
You know, I would say that 500 and some guests in, I am not sure I have ever read a bio that references the height of the guest. And then I started overthinking that and wondering, is this so that when people meet you, they aren't frightened? Or do you just get that out of the way? He's very tall.
And the things that I get asked immediately is, A, how tall are you? And B, did you play basketball? So that's literally the first thing I say when I get on stage. It's the first thing that happens when I meet somebody, which the answer is 6'8". And yes, I played basketball in college, played basketball professionally overseas, did all of that. But when we went like fully virtual, right, in 2020, that wasn't happening. And I would like talk to people virtually, and we would like craft 3, 4, 6 months, like work connections. And then we would meet and they'd be like, oh my God, so that actually did happen. So yes. And some people have told me if I would promote my company as much as I promote my height, we'd probably be twice as big as we are now. So yeah, it's probably some priorities on my part I have to fix.
Well, speaking of height and the pandemic, I had a similar experience. Now I'm just 6'2". But I had a colleague that I met and started working with over the pandemic, and this had never been something that I thought to cover. But then the first time we came face to face, she was, "Oh, you're a tall." She said.
Yes, anyone 6 foot and up is usually in that. And it is funny, our company is full remote. We have 30 plus people. And when we try and meet up at least twice a year. There's always that conversation. Somebody we thought would have been taller is like 5'1". Somebody we thought had a milder personality is 6'2", so it's It's very interesting, the correlatives that go with height.
So, in talking about your team's work, I wanted to talk a little bit about finding audience across platforms because our work in doing that is just become harder as the platforms grow. The audiences are in more and more different places. How can we not only build an audience, but even find the right audience?
No, absolutely. It's one of the most difficult things. Not only most difficult, it's one of the most overlooked things that people forget before they start. When they start and they realize they're not having that success, then they're like, oh, well, I need to find my audience. It's like, well, yes, but that should be the first thing you are doing because there are specific audience patterns that your audience has, and it can even vary per platform, right? But generally, the way that I always talk through it is the most helpful thing is if you know somebody in your audience. Let's say you're starting an apparel account for mixed martial arts, and you know you have 4 friends that love watching the UFC fights, love doing all of that. You want to see what kind of content they like. Now, when people hear that, they think I'm saying, I want to hear what type of brand content we like. Absolutely not. It is about the general type of content because we have to remember TV was created for advertisers to have, like, that's why TV exists, right? It exists so that advertisers can pay money to, that's what, like, when a show is success or failure, it is because we were not able to sell, we did not get enough audiences to sell to that were relevant to us. Social was actually built as a consumer model first, and the way they make money is by making you the product. Now, what that means is when it comes to the audience, they can look at content and never see anything branded if they don't want to. So you have to curate your content based on the content they like to see because it is active. Yes, you could change your channel. Back in the day, I grew up in a very strict household. We had to mute the commercials when they came on. But, you know, like when it comes to audiences now, you have to understand what they're watching in their leisure time, what they're watching when they want to laugh, what they're watching when they want to learn. Then you take your content and put it that way. So the first thing you do is not, oh, I know what the audience wants. Nope, you have to put that aside. If you can find people that you know in real life, look at what they are enjoying, or go to like the UFC fan page or go to, you know, like those pages, go into their followers, click in a bunch of people, see who they are following, what they are following as far as big enjoyment accounts, and build it that way. So it can take, and of course, you know, there are platforms that do this, and I don't want to get into those names and things, but you have to do the work and see what your audience is enjoying so that you're not marketing to your audience, you're marketing to what they enjoy. And that is a small but very important difference when it comes to finding your audience is market to what your audience enjoys, then your audience will find you.
That's fascinating. And I love the historical perspective too with TV because we had these networks with shows that people would go and find. And now it's a similar dynamic, but like you said, very different in terms of what we do and when. And I think to say nothing of the fact that there's so many different places where people can go to find content related to something like UFC or whatever it is, wherever you're trying to find them, the mountain is a big one to climb. Yeah. So if you know that interest, how do you use that to orient your way forward in finding that audience online?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things is we call it community outreach. So this is something really that Wendy's made popular back in the early 2010s, which is about 2 years ago. I won't argue on the timeline of that. But, like back in the early 2010s, they really started interacting and engaging with the audience, right? And they weren't trying to sell anything. They actually took a very bold approach. They were firing off on people. They were roasting people left and right, and people loved it, right? That's why people followed, and a bunch of brands and companies followed suit. So what I'm saying is not original, but when it comes to this style, if you want to find the audience, you have to go and talk to the audience. So we do this with a lot of our clients. We follow a lot of big accounts, right? Whether it's sports, whether it's personality, whether it's meme aggregate accounts, and we jump in and join the conversation. And a lot of times, 98% of the time, it has nothing to do with sales. It has nothing to do with our product. The best compliment we can get is, OMG, what is brand doing here with laughing emojis, right? Or not brand name getting in on this, doing that. I picture it like door-to-door salesman is a job. Door-to-door salesmen also go to parties. Door-to-door salesmen don't go sell at parties. Door-to-door salesmen can go there and enjoy the time. They make friends. They laugh. Then if somebody asks them what they do, they can talk a little bit about, oh, I do need a vacuum. I don't know why I picked this 1957 example right now, but they're like, oh, I do need what you're serving. But before you could get there, you had to be relatable. Understand what's around. Social media is not a native selling machine, even though brands are what make the wheels turn. So you have to go in there with hey, we're here to have fun. Yes, we are a brand. Yes, I have stuff to sell, but I'm on here at the same way you are to enjoy what's happening, to comment on the social commentary that's in front of us and go from there. So, going back to that example, if you have a door-to-door salesman come into this party and start trying to people be like, oh, okay, this person is really weird. So making sure that you engage, build that community, then you can start to build an audience that actually cares about your brand, cares about the product, and builds that brand affinity that you ultimately do want.
That at the risk of overextending the door-to-door salesman metaphor at the party, when that does happen, you can actually do damage because everybody ends up talking about, don't go over there. He's going to try to sell you something.
Yes, as everybody has that guy that comes on too strong in a conversation, in a workplace, in a meeting. Don't be that guy on social.
Yeah, you got to go save your buddy from him because they're getting the full pitch.
I'm sorry about this. He's not usually like this, knowing full well he is. Okay, but you're his friend. You invited him. Also, he's your ride. You can't leave, so you have to try and smooth it all over.
On Brand, we'll be right back after this.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Now, back to the show. So, in talking about brands, you've worked with Amazon, with MrBeast, but with a brand like Champion that we think of as one of those legacy brands that is still there, still been there since I was a kid and before, and continuing on. As we talk about all of these challenges, relevancy is a huge challenge. So when working with a legacy brand, how do you find relevancy without seeming like that guy at the party that we were just talking about?
Absolutely. No, that's one of our biggest, not only undertakings when we are working with a company, but it's also one of the things that we say, like, hey, if you are not willing to fully commit to this, then this won't work. So step one with any legacy brand, doesn't matter how big their market cap is, whatever it is, your ego of what has been able to build you to where you are has to be set aside, right? Like it has to be set aside. We then need to look at the relevant landscape that does apply to you and see how we can create content that is similar but still holds strong to your brand. Sometimes that may be like a straight apples to apples comparison creation of it. It may be teasing it a little bit, being a little tongue in cheek with how it's going through. It may be like, yeah, we are going to stand firm. Like, this is who we are. This is what we're doing, no matter what, until the end. But the biggest thing is having some self-awareness of how you come across in the market and using that to your advantage, even if it is not cool. That was one of the things with Champion, right? Like Champion was considered the bargain brand. Champion was considered, like, hey, that everyday brand, there's really no shade with it, but it wasn't something that, like you would run, if you got it for Christmas, you were running to school the next day talking about it, right? At least when I grew up. They reinvented themselves and they have that awareness in the conversations that they have. They have the awareness of, hey, we were here, now we're here. So there were a bunch of times, I remember there was a comedian that had a bit about Champion. Like, wait, when did Champion become cool? Like all of this. And so we reached out and we commented on that. We played into that, like talking about like our glow up is one to be studied, right? Like those types of things where we weren't like, we here at Champion have prided ourselves. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, no, it's like, yeah, the sentiment was that a brand wasn't cool. We're cool now, so we can admit to that. And also, there's a popular social trend of a glow up, right? Where somebody in middle school, which real glow ups are just like attractive people showing a picture that they took that they felt was not attractive. Just like there's no actual glow up here. But anyways, let me not turn this into a ranting podcast. But when it comes to, so we fit into that trend, right, of the glow up. We were able to be relatable while still staying strong to our brand values. We didn't make fun of ourselves so much that we cut ourselves down, but it was just enough tongue in cheek while somebody else was making that same point to accentuate it to where people are like, oh, Champion gets it. Champion gets what we do here. And that would usually turn into an uptick in followers, an uptick in website traffic. Even if it didn't always turn into sales, it still got Champion, eyes on Champion in a place where Champion is not natively invited, or legacy brands are not natively invited to those conversations.
Well, it's interesting as you talk about the media of it all. I feel like there's something strategically, beyond just where this is happening, because I feel like there's almost a paradigm shift, because it seems like you would maybe in another time not want to be the focus of a comedian. And yet talking about that, I think it was Jerry Seinfeld talking about the Untuck It shirt guys, and then they reshared it, and I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. They're what you just said. They're with the joke. I have yet to hear if Jim Gaffigan's actually worked with the Hot Pockets people, but I think that's something important that even happens, like I said, beyond the the media that can be hard to, take a deep breath. And as you said, with kind of your joke, we have always respected, we do our utmost to, that's how we usually respond. But this is it's embracing something different that I'm doing a poor job of explaining.
Well, the biggest difference is the way TV was set up was basically damming the river, right? So like PR could dam the river and we could control the narrative of the flow of information, right? Like that's why PR would come out like that. That's why you would say that when you watch Mad Men, right? Like that's what the surrounding no, the surrounding focus of Mad Men was a bunch of other stuff. But like the advertising only is about like, hey, we are telling our customers how to think. What social introduced is not a one-way medium, right? Like newspaper, right? Where it's just, one way, or radio or TV, and not even two-way. It is a multi-way conversation. So it's basically now like, sure, you can have a dam, but it's also raining. So there are estuaries forming that are like on the sides and everything's going. And now the current is too strong to fight. So you might as well just go with it. And people understand that that is the best way to do it, as opposed to like, if you were to look at that same river and see somebody like riding down a whitewater raft really fast, you'd be like, wow, that's very bold, but impressive. Versus somebody taking a shovel and like taking the water out, people like, that is the most pointless thing that we have ever seen. So when brands try and be too serious or try and be like, hey, guys, this stops now, people are gonna be like, no, like I'm one viral tweet away from being way bigger than anything a company puts out, which for the kids is called ratioing, right? Where a brand puts something out, you put something out, and that gets more attention. Like that's probably one of the worst things that can happen on social media for a brand. But like it's just now about like you gotta go with the flow because there is no controlling it compared to PR. Now, obviously, there's still absolutely a place for PR, but it's not just we're telling you how to think. It's, hey, here's the information. Yep, we know that this is happening. Here's how it affects, and here's how we're going to move forward to let the people make their own choice. They actually appreciate that more than trying to be told this is the only way to think about a certain situation.
So we were talking about things that were not cool earlier. And as I think about that, it reminds me of the challenges in regulated industries. So as we talk about paradigm shifts, new ways of doing things, I feel like those in regulated industries are quick to say, I don't know if that's a thing that we can do. I don't know if a comedian sends us up, if we can be a part of that. How do you balance that in regulated industries today?
Yeah, I love that question. I love when someone brings it up to me. I cut my teeth in social in higher ed and then mortgage. So like, it's about as regulated as you get. Okay. So like, one, I understand, I empathize. Two, we do not change the messaging. It's just the way the messaging is presented. We can talk about with mortgage, well, we don't want to talk about rates and we don't want to talk about that. Okay, we're not going to talk about rates. We're still going to talk about that it's a myth to put 20% down on a home, but we're just going to do it in an entertaining way, right? It can do it in the, hunt for the Loch Ness monster, and it's like you're looking at all these mythical beasts, right, that are all myths that you're playing into the myth that you're talking about. You can get as wild as you want with the things that are unimportant as long as you keep those narratives the same. So it's about, and it's a mix of science and art, especially when it comes to social. How can you keep the integrity of the brand while jumping into those relevant conversations? That's one of the things that I did is when I was working way back when at Movement Mortgage, I created 60-second or less videos that educated home buyers, and it educated it in an entertaining way. And in an educated and entertaining way. It was super fun, but all of the information was intact. And I made sure that compliance looked at it. Now, why did I make it? Because I was 30 years old and had never bought a house and had no idea what I was talking about. So I just used it to teach myself. I also knew I was my own audience, right? So it was a little easier there. But we were able to create this type of content where I would dress up as a detective, or I would use, like martial arts, or I would do all these random things, all while delivering an education content. I also say that I'm the godfather of the 60-second a mortgage video. If someone can find one that did it in the style that I did beforehand, well, I'm not going to put like a reward for it. No, everything else is taking enough money from me. But that's where that came from in those regulated industries. So it's sticking to those core pinnacles. We're not changing that, but learning how to take the surrounding information and the surrounding trends into a place where you can have fun with it and your audience will appreciate it to then get to that information.
I love that. And you dressed up like a detective makes me smile. And it reminds me that I now get to ask you, Adam, for a brand that has made you smile recently.
That's a great one, especially as someone that spends a lot of times with what brands are doing. I envy Duolingo so much in just how wild they act on social. I mean, they are usually right on point funny. Like I usually truly do laugh when I see that. And there's two types of social media laughs, right? There's that's a double nostril exhale, right? Like that's like that. That's good, right? If I can get I've done my job. As a social media marketer, I've done my job. But like that actual laugh, right? And it Duolingo does such a good job of, and it's a phrase that I love saying, of making content relatable to the point of engagement. I see the content, I laugh at it, and I have to share it with somebody. I have to have somebody else look at it, right? So that means I'm clicking a save, I'm clicking a share. That's my goal to create the content. But yeah, Duolingo makes me laugh and smile just about every day when they post. And sometimes I'm not even following. It's Duolingo Brazil, Duolingo Canada. They have it completely on lock. They definitely make me smile a lot as of late.
I love that. That's such a fun example. Adam, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two places for me that are easiest is Adam Constantine on LinkedIn or at They Call Me AC on Instagram. Those are the places that I frequent a lot. It's They Call Me AC on most platforms. Sometimes I'm on TikTok. I had one viral TikTok, and then I'm in the hundreds ever since. So I pouted and basically left that platform. But those two, and then my company, #Ace Creatives. That's our handle on Instagram. So it's #Ace Creatives. Spell the word. Don't put a hashtag. Spell out hashtag, spell out Ace, spell out Creatives, and then Ace Creatives on any other platform.
Awesome. Well, I will do you one better. And if folks got confused, they can go to On Brand Podcast and we will link up to everything that Adam just mentioned.
There it is.
Adam Constantine, thanks for being on brand with us.
Man, thank you so much, Jake. This is a blast.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.